Yes, it's the most important contest in the history of mankind. Well, judging by the way most ute owners drive in Australian capital cities. This is a contest between the Toyota HiLux and the Ford Ranger. What is quicker across a virtual drag race? Specifically, we've got the new Ranger Tremor. This is basically a replacement to the old Wildtrak X from last year. The main difference is this is based on the Ranger Sport, while the Wildtrak X was based on the Wildtrak, obviously. So just a few less luxuries compared with that, but still the same wide body package with hardcore suspension, very aggressive off-road tires, grabber tires, and then various trimmings and so on to help make it more macho and more sporty. As for the HiLux, this is the Rogue variant, which is kind of a bit more of a luxury aimed model, kind of. I mean, you could argue the GR Sport is more of a competitor, but that's got a little bit more power, and that probably goes more evenly up against the Raptor, I guess. I don't know, you tell me in the comments below, but I think these are pretty even. They certainly are in terms of price. The Ranger starts from just under $70,000 before on-road costs, while the HiLux is just over $71,000 before on-road costs. The HiLux, we've raced this example before against some other stuff. Basically, I'm going to make it my mission to drag race every single vehicle on sale against the HiLux almost. But yeah, this is the 48 volt mild hybrid version. Now, I think it's caused a bit of tension with traditional buyers and enthusiasts and so on. As I said before, I think Toyota has purposely gone for a pretty basic mild hybrid setup. It's just a little, two-way alternator running off the engine, basically, adding a little bit of extra power, but mainly knocking off the emissions and fuel consumption, at least on paper. Now, whether you can get those numbers in the real world is another thing, but at least you should be able to get slightly lower consumption compared with the non-mild hybrid version. I mean, it is a little bit heavier. Toyota says the battery weighs just 7 kilograms or something, but it doesn't actually say what the motor weighs, so the electric motor under the bonnet. No matter which way you look at it, it would add a little bit of weight. But I think Toyota has gone with a pretty basic setup on purpose because it knows its customers. A lot of its customers are working in remote areas and so on. They don't want anything overly complex. But in terms of the outputs, the Ranger uses a 2-litre engine, so 2-litre 4-cylinder twin-turbo diesel, 154 kilowatts and 500 Newton meters, versus the HiLux's 2.8-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel with that electric assistance. Toyota doesn't actually say that it adds more power to the overall output. It's 150 kilowatts and 500 Newton meters, just like the regular HiLux range, but it does provide little bursts. If the battery is full, it can provide help during acceleration off the line and recoup some of that energy when going down hills and so on. But due to the weight of the Tremor, this is 2.4 tons curb weight versus the HiLux, which is just over 2.2 tons. The power to weight ratio is in favor of the HiLux, 68 kilowatts per ton versus 65 kilowatts per ton in the Ranger. Now, I'm a bit disappointed that Ford hasn't offered the V6 with this, with the Tremor, just like it did not offer the V6 with the Wildtrak X. I don't think the V6 is exactly, a superior engine overall. I just think that if you've got it there, why not offer it as an option at least? I like the V6 because it's a bit smoother, 600 Newton meters. It is going to be a little bit heavier than the 4-cylinder, so you've got that over your front end. But I think it mainly comes in handy if you're towing or carrying heavy things, because you've got a heavier rotating mass, just helps it chug along and roll along the road. And you've also got better engine braking compared with the 4-cylinders. I wouldn't categorize this as the inferior engine though. It's actually really smooth and quiet, goes just fine. It doesn't have that low down grunt that you get from the V6, but as you'll see in the performance results, it doesn't go too badly against anything else that's a much bigger capacity engine. But we'll see how we go in a head-to-head drag race. As before, I'll set up the cameras on 3 positions down this private road for a quarter-mile run, including at the start, and then halfway, or roughly halfway, and then down at the finish line to see which crosses the line first. In the editing, I take off at the exact same time, so this is what a drag race would look like, basically, if they were both here lined up against each other. I would like to line them both up, but the property owner says it's probably not a good idea because it's quite narrow. And also, I think some of the manufacturers might get the shits because we're drag racing their vehicles. At least this way, I'm not technically drag racing their cars. But anyway, let's see how they go. I achieved the best results in normal mode. There we have it, very close drag race. The HiLux just gets there in the end, particularly down the whole quarter mile, but off the line, they're very similar. They're both very slow. So if you're after absolute performance, probably best off in a Raptor or the GR Sport models, but these two, they go okay. If you look at our performance data results page with all the VBox results of every vehicle that I've tested over the years, there's about 1,000 vehicles in there. You'll see these two, the 0 to 100 times at least, are not too bad compared with other diesel 4-cylinder utes like this. Although this is not a full comparison, I'll just give you a quick verdict on what I think is best. If you want a ute that you're going to be using mainly for lifestyle, recreation and so on, bit of off-roading, hit the beach, take the family away all the time or regularly at least, and do some work in it, then I think the Ranger is the best because it's just so nice to drive. It feels like an SUV to drive, really. The ride comfort is at the top of the class, in my opinion. I mean, these big balloony tyres probably help as well. And that's probably a good point. These off-road tyres, they don't offer good braking performance, as you'll see in the performance test. I'll have a separate review video of this coming up. But the braking performance is not very good. And it's pretty much largely down to those off-road tyres. They're chunky as, like, think about all of the gaps there. That's areas where the tyre is not contacting the road. So it doesn't have, you might as well say, instead of it being a 265 wide tyre, you might as well say it's a, whatever, 165 even, because of all those gaps, just reduce the contact patch on the road. But then again, if you are planning to go off-road regularly, then the tyres are good because they provide extra grip and traction. Another area where the Ranger wins is the interior. It's just much nicer, big touchscreen, better connectivity. It's just a nicer place to be and to spend time. On the other hand, if I was after a workhorse, if I wanted to keep it for 10 years or so something like this I would probably only keep for 3 or 4 years while it's still in factory warranty. I can't talk too much about long-term reliability because we only test these for a week, so I can't really say anything there, but I mean, this hasn't broken down, but that's not really of any help to you. If you have one and you've got an experience to share, put that in the comments because then others can see that. That's probably more help than any idiot journalist can provide. But yeah, if I was going to keep it for 10 years or something like that, then that would make me more inclined to go with the HiLux. It's more of a workhorse. It's pretty rugged inside, hard plastic everywhere, but it's not going to wear out. That's the thing. Like if you're, depending on a ute, you're going to be in the outback or you're, a miner or something like that. You don't want bits of trim falling off or fraying away or anything like that. So the HiLux is great for that area. And I think Toyota has gone for that on purpose. The next gen model I think will be quite a bit different. They'll change the design of the dash, kind of like what we saw with the latest RAV4 and the Prado, just a bit nicer and chunkier, still rugged, but just a bit nicer to look at, a bit better presented, and a bigger touchscreen. The touchscreen, it's just, not that the size matters in the HiLux, but it's just very basic, and it's got these chrome buttons. It just looks like it's from 2012 or something. But if I was after something that's dependable, and I'm going to be using it for off-road, pretty serious off-roading as well, I would probably take the HiLux. They're both very capable. I mean, this will probably get a little bit further because it has the chunky tyres compared with the HiLux. But you can always modify those sorts of things if you are serious about it. But I think in the long run, the HiLux would go further. Make sure you hit subscribe though, because I'll have a full video review of this thing. We'll take it off-road and we'll do the full performance test as well. Thanks for watching.